Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Friday, February 13th, 2026, and I am coming at you live from your mother's stinky vagina. And I just wanted to start off this episode by talking about the thing that everyone's been talking about, over the course of this past week, of course. The thing that everyone's talking about, which is that someone set off the fucking fire alarm at 4 in the goddamn morning yesterday, or not even yesterday. I guess it would be 4 a.m. today. Someone set off the fucking fire alarms in the dorm at 4 in the almost exactly 4 in the morning. Which is we'll talk about it, but I mean it's the big thing that everyone's talking about. It's the thing that everyone's concerned about. I think it's what like all the protests were over or whatever. But I mean, 4 in the morning? Because, I mean, clearly every time a smoke alarm gets set off in a fucking dorm room, it's not because someone burnt like a Philly cheesesteak or some shit, right? No one was cooking up like a piece of Wagyu or something like that, like a nice A5 ribeye or whatever it is. They were smoking weed, right? Someone was smoking weed, and that's why the fire alarm went off. And if it was like the afternoon or even evening when that happened, I'd be like, all right, you're a fucking retard. You don't know how to cover up a smoke detector. What do you think that thing is with the blinking light in your room? Whatever. I would have been over it. But smoking weed at 4 in the morning, weed is not a middle of the night drug. That's not even middle of the night. That's early in the morning. That's 4 in the morning is clocking in at your shift at the warehouse or waking up to go clock into your shift at the warehouse. That's what 4 in the morning is. 4 in the morning is like single dad wake up time. That's not even night. I would say night ends at like 2 a.m. And then you have like 2 to 3 ish, and that's like the weird zone. But 4 in the morning is 4 in the morning. It's not the same as 1 in the morning or whatever. Yeah, but weed it's a bedtime drug. That's what weed is for. Weed, and to be fair, when I get high, I get high. Like, I know some people can get high and just like chill and do whatever. When I get high, I'm gonna get high. It's like drinking. I don't see the point of having 2 or 3 drinks, unless you're an alcoholic, which then obviously that's you have 2 or 3 drinks so you don't die or whatever. But if you're gonna drink, get drunk. That's my sentiment about it, and that's why I don't drink barely at all, because I don't enjoy getting drunk that much, and I especially don't enjoy the day after getting drunk too much. But I mean, weed at 4 in the morning, and even if it was 4:20 a.m., I'd be like, all right, it was 4:20 a.m. 4:20 blaze it. That's what 13-year-olds would do, but still, I would give them a little bit of grace. But just sparking up a joint for the love of the game at 4 in the morning is fucking insane. Or even worse, whipping out like a big ass like Rick and Morty bong or some shit at 4 in the morning, filling that bitch up with water and ice cubes and just at 4 in the morning is ridiculous. And it was I had stayed up pretty late. I don't know, maybe 1, fell asleep around 2:30. And that's like the worst time to wake up. That is the absolute worst time to wake up after you've been asleep for about an hour and a half, cuz it's not to the point where you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna stay up. Like, if you get 3-4 hours, you can kind of be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna stay up. But I mean, after an hour and a half, that's like the perfect. Like, if I wake up at that point, I'll feel at least a little bit energized. And especially if the fucking fire alarms are going off, I'll feel a little bit energized, right? If I just hear beep, beep, and just a flashing light in my dark room, that'll energize me. But also, the hour and a half of sleep is also provides an energizing effect. And so I was able to fall asleep pretty quick afterwards, but I know there were some people who didn't get blessed with with who's the god of dreams or whatever. Sonos, some shit like that. They didn't get blessed with a visit from the dream god, you know? And even then, motherfuckers got to wake up at like 8 in the morning to go to class and go to work and shit. Absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, alcohol, getting drunk all night, that's one thing, but getting high for like 12 hours straight, and I don't mean like taking an edible and then accidentally being high for like 3 days afterwards, that's a different story. But continually smoking weed, because I don't imagine you go, okay, I'm going to stay up until 4 and then I'm going to start smoking weed. I don't imagine that that's a decision one makes. Just, I don't think that was in the plan at all. Call me crazy. But yeah, staying, deciding to spark up at 4 in the morning for any reason is insane. It's insane. If you can't go to sleep, just fucking jack off, dude. There's no reason to be smoking a joint in bed like a fucking French woman with a cigarette. All right, there's precisely zero reason to be doing that. We all went outside, and it. Thank God it wasn't too cold. Took me like 30 seconds to find my jeans. I just had to listen to that blaring, and I'm starving too. I've been starving myself a lot lately. Um, some people might call it dieting, but it, you are starving yourself technically. But I've been feeling it a lot, and that definitely didn't help with the situation at all. And all I'm gonna say is, they're lucky I didn't have my car keys. Because if I had my car keys, I would have made Renee Good look like a fucking game of bumper cars, right? And I'm a man. I'm not a lesbian softball coach or whatever the fuck she was. I'm a man, so it wouldn't have been like her where she missed the target. I would have hit the target like it's a goddamn Stampy video, all right? And that's a niche reference out there for those of you who are around my age. Stampy hit the target. Very niche reference there, but I would have, and I would have gotten my target too. My arrow would have flown straight and true, and I would have hit my target. I mean, and that is, I know, I can't remember what country it is. It's either the Netherlands or Denmark. It was the Dutch or the Danish. I can't exactly remember, but one of those two countries killed and ate their prime minister. They formed like a mob and they killed him and then they ate him. And like at that point, that would not have been an unreasonable reaction. If everyone just together like looked at each other and was like, "Fucking, I'm hungry, you hungry," and then just find out who did it and rip them apart and eat them. I would have 100% been involved in that, and I wouldn't have even demanded like a nice cut of meat. I would have been like, dude, you can give me the liver or something like that. I know a ton of people don't love liver. I would have taken the liver or the kidneys or something like that. It would have been like it would have been absurd. You know what I mean? It would have been like a fucking, if you opened up a KFC all you can eat buffet in Compton or some shit like that. We would have descended upon that fool and munched him alive. It was, yeah, it was very upsetting on many levels. Smoking weed at 4 in the morning, being too retarded to use tape in a fucking grocery bag to cover up the smoke detector. I mean, just a perfect hurricane of retardation. It was like the Special Olympics. It was just, we gotta, whoever did this, whoever somehow set off the smoke alarms at 4, because plenty of people smoke weed in here. You smell it all the time in any dorm room, and all the dorms have fire alarms in them and shit. Tons of people smoke weed, but this person was somehow retarded enough to not figure out how to cover up their fire alarm and also do it at 4 in the morning. Like, we have a RAs or whatever, but they're not student RAs. They're like, they work for the school, I think. And like, if you're working as like an RA and you're like 40 years old and it's 4 in the morning, that, if I was him, I would have gone full on like principal and called the school assembly and been like, all right, we're not leaving until someone confesses to that shit. And then just like a Singapore fucking court, cane that motherfucker. Beat his ass black and blue. Um, that's that's what should have been the ultimate consequence of that. But look, we live in America in the 21st century. There's really not a lot of consequences for your actions, unless you, yeah. And now that I'm thinking about it, just really no consequences for your actions ever. And to be fair, your actions don't have as great an effect as they once did, and so that's why there's no consequences. But anyway, yeah, it was it was big news. I'm sure you guys have heard about it by now. The smoke alarms that went off at 4 in the morning. It just, I mean, like I said, we should have eaten that person. That I've moved past killing people. Everyone now is talking about, like killing the pedophiles or whatever, because Epstein's getting big now. Epstein's starting to blow up. Um, he's starting to get big. But I've been feeling that for a while. I've had the mentality of like, why don't we just kill these people? Like we're America. We've done worse than accidentally kill a guy who was falsely accused of being a pedophile. We've done worse than that. All right, can we be honest with ourselves for a fucking second? We've bombed weddings before. If you're getting accused of being a pedophile, there's probably a 98% chance you would have done it. I'm not saying you did do it, but there's a pretty decent chance you would have done it. You know what I mean? People don't just shoot in the dark for no reason. Some people do. Like I said, that's why it's a 98% chance, not a 100% chance, but there's a pretty good chance that putting you down is not a net negative for society. So, but I've been feeling that way for a while. Like, let's just kill these people. And in a very, what I mean, French Revolution type of way, bread and circuses, even, we could do gladiatorial combat, public beheadings. But honestly, I think eating people might start to be my new reaction to what I mean, being a pedophile or being a murderer or being like a human trafficker or like a fentanyl trafficker or something like that, or being a person who sets off the smoke alarms at 4 in the goddamn morning in a dorm room when motherfuckers got places to be at 8 7 a.m. you know but anyway, that's that's my new reaction. Because think about it, you know what I mean? I don't say we have to institute this globally, but in America, what's one of the biggest struggles we're currently facing in America? Food insecurity. Food prices are through the roof. People can't afford food anymore. I get that was actually a big thing this week was an article from, I don't know, some bullshit like The Guardian or some newspaper like that talking about how young people need to stop splurging on rotisserie chickens. If you've been on Twitter, you've probably seen it. It was fucking, yeah, it was just insane. But they've also told us to like eat crickets and get an experimental vaccine. So telling us we're splurging by eating fucking rotisserie chickens, I would not say is out of the norm. But anyway, food insecurity. It's a big issue people are facing. People aren't getting, meat is getting real expensive right now. Um, you know, because Trump isn't paying people to grow corn, which is one of the biggest scams we have in this country, by the way. Corn, everyone talks about the Somalis and their leering centers or whatever, which, yeah, fair enough. But corn is a big scam in this country. Like literal corn, not how people on like TikTok or Instagram replace the word porn with corn. Like actual, like on the cob type shit is a huge scam in this country. But anyway, meat is super expensive. I mean, just all manner of food is getting, unless you're eating like a guy fighting in the Chinese Boxer Rebellion, you know what I mean? Just like rice and fucking rat meat. Unless you're eating that, uh, your food prices are through the roof. Um, and so I think that if we started publicly, you know what I mean, like a horde of zombies, if it doesn't even have to be proven in court or anything. Obviously, the justice system in this country isn't. Yeah, obviously it's not great, and obviously they, for some reason, want to defend pedophiles of a certain ethnicity, certain religion. I can't say what what religion the pedophiles are. It was a Jewish pedophile, but anyway, the justice system is fucked up. People can't afford food. People are angry all the time. You know what I mean in this country because of the other two things I mentioned and a bunch of other things too. So I think that eating people in just a kind of a flash mob type of way, like no real organization, just like a deep cultural understanding that at any given moment you could be walking down the street and someone would go pedophile and point at a guy and we would just all descend on that person and eat him and it would be a him. And I know people are like, the brave men and women who died in World War One. Like that's a thing that pisses me off. Like no, the brave men who died in World War One. You know what I mean? It was the brave men. And once again, flip side of that, if it's a pedophile, it's gonna be a dude. I mean, look, there is chick pedophiles out there, and there is chicks that died in World War Two. But I mean, it, it's like talking about rape and abortion. It's like, what are we doing here, guys? If it's a pedophile, let's analyze the numbers and let's understand the reality of the world we live in. Probably going to be a guy. But anyway, you point at that guy and you go pedophile, and everyone just descends on him and eats him all at once. You know what I mean? Just leaving a pile of bones like a Looney Tunes cartoon after someone jumps into like the Amazon River and gets eaten by piranhas or whatever. That's I think that would be a solution to many things in this country that's currently going on. You know, like I said, food insecurity, the general anger, the kind of distance between all of us right now. Like, there's a lot of, I guess, emotional, social distance between everyone right now. I think eating a guy would really bring everyone together, you know? Because, like, you look at human history, what's the thing that really bonds people together? Sometimes it's love, sometimes it's religion, but it's mostly food. Like, that's really the ultimate thing that brings a group of people together and keeps them together is food, you know. And historically in this country, it's been like hot dogs and soda pop. Now we have 90 million people coming in from various third world countries every day, so we can't really do the hot dogs and soda pop anymore. So it's gonna have to be people. You know, I'm not familiar with the Quran or the Hindu sacred texts or whatever. Not familiar with any of that. I don't know if it bans eating people outright. You know, I know the Muslims, they got like the halal versus haram thing. I don't know if dude's in there. I'll be honest with you. I haven't checked it out. I haven't looked too closely. I know they can't eat like lizards or some weird shit like that, but I'm pretty sure dude isn't in there. I'm pretty sure a Muslim can eat a dude. Um, you know, they're mostly in the business of beheading them, but I'm sure they could eat them if they wanted to. You know what I mean? But whatever Allah or Muhammad has to say about it. And if Muhammad says you can't eat a dude, look, no disrespect to Muhammad, get that's the prophet and all that stuff. He did worse things than eating a dude. You know what I mean? So if he's like the perfect example of what a human being is supposed to be, you can eat a dude if you're a Muslim. I think that's fair enough. And then Indians, those fucking, they're basically like the Chinese, but they won't eat cows. They'll eat anything fucking else. So I think this is a thing that could really bring this country together. And obviously, all the people coming from like Africa and shit like that, they'll eat a fucking. They don't give a fuck, dude. People from Africa do not give a fuck, especially if they're from like the Congo or like South Sudan or some shit. They will. That's breakfast to them. I'm surprised they haven't done it already. Like that was like the big thing with like the recent uh or the 2024 election. You know, Kambala versus Trump or whatever. Like one of the big things in there was like the Haitians were eating like cats and dogs and stuff like that. And look, bad shouldn't have been doing that. But if you knew anything about Haiti and what goes on over there, we should be thanking Christ those people weren't eating other people's dude. Like they're for real. You cannot imagine what Haiti is like. You know, I know Conan O'Brien when Trump called it a shithole went to like some fucking reservation where all the slaves work or whatever, and or not reservation, resort, and was like, this place is nice. What is he talking about? This isn't a shithole, motherfucker. Go to Port-au-Prince, all right. They're Munchin people over there. Like one of the main generals they had in like that Civil War, or I don't even know if you could call like Haiti isn't even a country. Like that's the thing about Haiti that in a lot of these other places that people don't understand. They're not even countries. South Sudan is not a country. Haiti is not a country. It has a president. It has like a UN ambassador and stuff like that. It but it is not a country. These are like governmentless states. They're munching people over there 100%. They're lawless hellholes. So I mean, I don't think someone from Haiti or South Sudan would be like, be trying to be too good about fucking eating the dude. They'd probably be like, hell yeah, dude, this reminds me of home. It'll help them assimilate into the culture if we start eating people. So, yeah, we gotta start eating people. Really choose anyone. You know what I mean? At first, obviously, there's gonna be a bit of a free for all or whatever, and some people are gonna get eaten who probably shouldn't get eaten. But I mean, after that, and especially in America too, like we have so many fucking fat people in this country, we are gonna be like pigs and shit. It is gonna be fantastic when we start eating people. So yeah, just start eating people. Just point at a guy, and someone's going to have to be the first to do it. You know, that's the difficult thing a lot about a lot of great ideas. You know what I mean? When Nikola Tesla introduced alternating current electricity, there had to be a first electricity company to want to adopt the idea. And for a while, there wasn't. For a while, um, Nikola Tesla and alternating current were kind of like pushed to the side. And I think that's what eating people is going to be. I think it's going to be, shunned at first until someone is the first person to see the dude who, you know, the volleyball coach who molested his daughter and got off in court because there wasn't enough evidence and just runs up on him and takes a bite right out of his fucking, you know what I mean, his tricep or whatever. The first guy who does that, he's going to be our Paul Revere, our George Washington, you know, our originator. That's who that guy is gonna be. So I say be that guy. If you have a situation like that, and you got to choose a real piece of shit to go after, that's how this idea is really gonna catch on. Because you can't just be like, yeah, that was the fucking asshole teacher to me in 8th grade or whatever. I'm gonna go fucking eat his face off like I'm on bath salts in fucking Jacksonville, Florida. It's not gonna work. We got to choose like a good target. It has to almost be like a Rosa Parks type of situation, right? Where you know how everyone now talks about Rosa Parks and how she refused to give up her bus seat or whatever? That was like a planned thing. It was like a planned protest for her to do that. There was an original version of that where this young, like teen mother, I think it was. She was like her name was like Coletta, I think. It was like one of those like old Southern black lady names. Um, I think it was Coletta. I forget her name. Obviously, I know Rosa Parks' name, but anyway, that's kind of what we're going to have to do in this situation because the NAACP, they saw that Coletta chick or whatever her name was. I don't remember her name. I'll just look up OG Rosa Parks real quick, but, you know, we have to, because people do get eaten in this country. They do. It happens not often, and it's not often for the the it's not often for like the purpose of nutrition or whatever. It's usually, some sort of psychosis or something like that. But I don't know what the point I was trying to make is there. It won't show me the original Rosa Parks. Claudette Colvin. That's the chick's name. Yeah. So a guy in Central Florida taking a bunch of Chinese test chemicals and then eating a guy's face off, that's kind of the Claudette Colvin of this situation. It's just, it doesn't have like the allure or sexiness or the uh the prestige that Rosa Parks did. But it is someone that we should look up to. We should look up to that guy in the suburbs of Orlando who bought some shit from an Indian at a gas station and then munched a guy's nose off his face like Voldemort. We should look up to that guy and we should respect him and be like, you know what? It may not be sexy. It may not have, the fanciness or whatever. It may not have the eloquence that we want it to have, but it's what we need to do. We need to start being more like that guy. We need to start eating more people. And that's why I don't necessarily think that uh this massive influx of people from third world hellholes is necessarily a bad thing, dude. Because I think that's the thing that's really going to get this cemented in the culture. I think the influx of people from, stateless or governless African countries coming into our country is really gonna help us figure it out. And then obviously the ones that are shitty, you know what I mean? We'll just eat those guys too. Nice little circle of life thing we have going on. So, yeah, I guess that's the ultimate conclusion. We just got to start eating people. And it doesn't have to be, of course, it's going to be gross at first, dude. It's like mustard. Eating a guy is probably like mustard. Like when I was a kid, I did not like mustard. Um, which I was a pretty fucking fat kid, so that just shows you how gross mustard can be. But I love mustard now, dude. Dijon, throw some Dijon on a fucking on a bratwurst. I'm not upset at that at all. Throw it on a sandwich, a nice salami sandwich with some mustard. That's what dude is gonna be, or it's like alcohol. When your dad gives you a sip of his beer when you're a kid, and you're like, "That's the most disgusting thing I've ever tasted in your life," then 12 years later or whatever, you're getting fucking blackout drunk, licking the floor of a bar. That's what eating a guy is gonna be. At first you're gonna be like, ew, icky. That's gross. I would never eat a person. Ew, disgusting. That's what you're gonna say at first. And then next thing you know, 10, 15 years down the line or whatever, you're gonna be like, God damn, I could really go for some dude right now. I could munch on a dude at this point in time. Like that's what I'm craving, you know. And that's kind of gonna be how like pregnant chicks are like they can't smell like cooking meat or whatever, or it makes them nauseous. That's kind of be what like eating a dude is. They're gonna be like they're gonna see you eating a dude and they're gonna be throwing up, not because they're inherently disgusted by the vile nature of the act, but because they're pregnant and so they're just like, I can't think about eating meat right now. That's so disgusting. And they'll probably get over it and just smear some fucking peanut butter on a pickle and watch you eat a dude. It's what our country's it's what our country's come to. Look, I got a lot of great ideas. Eating dudes. Um that's about it, honestly. It was nuke Canada for a while. I just hate them. They're just so fucking uppity up there. It was nuke Canada, now it's eating dudes. And I think those are both pretty respectable ideas. Both pretty fucking respectable. Um and obviously it's going to be like every other thing that happens in America where, Europe and China or whatever are like, ew, that's disgusting. I would never do that. Oh, you Americans don't like, this or that or whatever. Oh, you Americans don't have free healthcare. Oh, and then they realize how shitty free healthcare is. And then they start to privatize their healthcare. That's what eating dudes is going to be. All the French fucking faggots and, although there's not a lot of French faggots left. I didn't ever in my life think I'd say I'm missing the French faggots, but I mean, if it's between French faggots and a fucking dude named Mohammed, we got enough dudes named Mohammed. I'm not hating on them, but we got enough of them. We could use some more French faggots. But anyway, the French faggots are gonna be like, ooh, that's so gross. You Americans are so gross. I never ate a man, you know. And then 10 years later, they're gonna start eating dudes too. It's like every other trend in America. They all shit on it at first, and then they start doing it. Especially clothing and stuff like that. Europe always shits on like American clothing, and 2 years later they're doing the exact same thing. So I think this whole eating people thing could be a global idea, a worldwide idea, you know. And that's the beauty of the melting pot of the United States of America is like, yeah, sometimes you bring in 80 million Haitians, and let them do whatever they want. And yeah, sometimes that results in a fucking golden retriever or two getting munched on. But at the end of the day, we learn something from that. You you see a third world immigrant snap the neck of a goose at a park, and it is someone who doesn't respect our ideas or cultures coming into our country and destroying it, but it's also the genesis of a great idea, right? And in the case of that, the great idea is just pouncing on people at any given moment and eating them from the inside out. It's a good idea. So that's kind of why I'm grateful we have that's why I'm grateful we subsidize the lives of third world immigrants living in our country. It's because they give us a lot of good ideas like that, like eating people. you know, unlike you racist fucking MAGA retards, I'm a progressive liberal who loves immigration, and we can learn from it. We can learn from it. Got to start eating people. Have to start munching on people. So, yeah, I guess that'll be one of the main topics of this episode is eating people, the fire alarms going off. I don't know, nothing really else happened in my life this week. I thought I had like a tooth, or not a tooth infection, but like my wisdom teeth, like the place where I like the gaping fucking holes in my mouth are, were really hurting, and so I was like, "Fuck, dude, is this shit infected?" And then I was like, "Look at the upside of it. If it is infected, you're not gonna have to sit through fucking identifying aquatic macroinvertebrates anymore. So, yeah, your jaw is gonna have to be removed, but you won't have to learn about fucking megaloptera or whatever, right?" You're not gonna have to learn about that, which that was a very shitty thing that happened this week. Not the severe jaw pain, which wasn't that bad. Um, but yeah, I was in class for 4 fucking hours yesterday. It was a class and a lab all in one, and we spent the entire time looking at fucking bugs, dude. Spent the entire time looking at bugs. That's not something you do with a fucking classroom full of college students, especially a classroom that's like mostly women, which is that's what all colleges are nowadays. But um, yeah, a classroom full of that's like an activity for like 8-year-old boys. You know what I mean? Is like look at these dead bugs. That's all we did for 4 hours was look at dead bugs, and the way we were supposed to figure out what type of dead bug it was so incredibly convoluted. So we were trying to it was macroinvertebrate identification, specifically. I think it was almost all larvae. I think we had one adult, but um we had to look at these things and like figure out what order they belong to, which if you don't know anything about biology or taxonomy or anything like that, like figuring out what order a species belongs to is very, very fucking easy. Like I'm pretty sure primate is an order. Like that's how easy it is to delineate between different orders of animals in the animal kingdom. And we spent 4 hours. So it was like 1.5 hours of lecture from this guy. Interesting guy. But anyways, about 1.5 hours of lecture from him, and then the other 2.5 hours were we saw a total of 5 bugs. I think it was 5 or 6 bugs that we had to identify. I could have gotten the entire thing done in 10 minutes. It was the easy. It was literally like a matching game of like the most. It was retarded. That was a very definitely not worse than the fire alarms, but it's up there. It's in the running. It's in contention for the most annoying things to happen to me this week. And it was just so retarded. I mean, just like the nature of it. And I get it. You know what I mean? You got to get the basics down before you can master it. But when it takes you 30 minutes to learn the basics, don't spend 4 hours learning the basics. That's that's my argument and all that. And it wasn't just there was some other like ecological information about the bugs and what it means when you see a certain fucking bug. Um a lot of bug talk, and he said bug a whole lot. It was a big bug guy. Um, but yeah, had 4 hours of fucking bug talk this week, and then the day after that, I get woken up at 4 in the morning by blaring fucking fire alarms because some retard doesn't know how duct tape works. So, but then positive things that happened to me this week. Positive things that happened to me this week. I don't know. I'm below 150 pounds. I've been starving myself for 6 months. To be fair, I've lost like 40 pounds in those 6 months. But still, it is frustrating at a certain point. Just being like, where's the six pack at? Where is it at? It's like, I watched like some Chinese dock worker video or some shit like that, and they're all jacked as hell. Yet I'm trying to eat as perfectly as I can, and I still have a 48-inch waist from the fucking globs of fat that are holding on to my waistline. You know, It does get annoying, but you got to do what you got to do. You know, it's a lesson. Sometimes you got to eat a guy. Sometimes you have to stare at bugs for 4 hours, for no like seriously no reason. This was one of the easiest things I've done in college. In college is pretty fucking easy. Even if you go to a nice school, it's like a state school. Like I was up in Minnesota at a state school last year. It's still so fucking easy. Like it's shocking how easy college is. Like whenever I hear someone being like, "Dude, I think I'm gonna fail this class," I'm like, That's not even a retardation. It's a lack of understanding how anything works. Like you seriously don't know how anything works if you're failing class. Like yeah, maybe if you have to work like 12 hours a day to be able to support yourself and your mom has cancer or some shit, yeah, then maybe you can fail a class. But if you're like a full-time student and you work like 10 hours a week doing DoorDash or whatever, you should not be failing any class until you're at least a PhD. And even then, what I've seen come out of PhD programs, you shouldn't be failing that either. Like there's some straight retardation coming out of those fucking things. You shouldn't be failing classes in college, especially not at this point. You know what I mean? Like the whole No Child Left Behind, that's really percolated its way through the whole education system. Like nobody's getting left behind. If you're getting left behind, it's because you fucking sat your fucking fat ass on the ground and not even let yourself get left behind. Someone was trying to pull you as hard as they could along, and you still got left behind. Like that's what college and just the education system as a whole feels like at this point. Once again, sometimes you just gotta say fuck it, and sometimes you just gotta say, you know what, kids spent thousands of years working in the mines and working in the fields and stuff like that. Just throw them in the fields. You know what I mean? We gotta just put them in the fields. And that would once again solve our immigration issue, right? Like everyone's talking about how we need to let in 1 million people from, you know, the Congo or whatever, so that tomatoes are cheap. And shocker, tomatoes haven't gotten any cheaper. But anyway, we need to let in billions of rapists from the third world so that your Subway BMT is $1 less expensive. You know what would solve that? Just saying, you know what? Not every kid needs to go to college. Not every kid's gonna have that in his life. Put his ass in the fields. I'm not talking about slavery. We're gonna let him choose what field to go to, but we're gonna put him in the fields or the mines or something like that. We're gonna put him there. Um, I think that would also solve a lot of our world issues. Just saying, fuck it. You can't take care of everybody. Or a lot of our country's issues. I don't really care about the world's issues. Um, I only care about the world's issues when it's like America getting involved in it. Like I think that's a big. It's like a big like plot point that we've lost in terms of politics. Is like people genuinely being invested in the sanctity and the security of the Palestinian state is insane to me. Like I only care about it to the extent that I don't want our country being controlled by a cabal of Satan worshiping baby eating pedophiles that are also genociding people with our money. Like that's the extent to which I care about it, which that is an extreme opinion at this point in America, is being like, yeah, I don't want my tax dollars according to like the boomers and the politicians. Obviously like no one else believes that, but um yeah, but if I told like my grandpa that, like if I was like, "Hey grandpa, um I know I don't pay taxes and probably never will in my life, but if I did, I wouldn't want my money going to a group of people who have corrupted all of our politicians, kidnapped, murdered, raped, and eaten our children, and who are also committing a genocide right now." He'd be like, "You fucking out of my sight." Right? He'd write me out of the will at that moment. The boomers love Israel. They love Israel so much. It's one of their favorite boomers' favorite things. I mean, it's a tough list to really rank the boomers' favorite things, but Israel might be number one. No, number one is destroying the country and then um getting mad at people when they point out the fact that you destroyed the country. That's their favorite thing. Which obviously not all boomers did that, but they're not exactly innocent. You know what I mean? They're not exactly innocent and all that, but and then number two is probably Israel. And then number three is buying a boat while your child struggles to pay for their chemo. That's that's the boomers' third favorite activity. I think that's the ranking right there. Calling kids lazy um, when you worked at a bookstore for a summer and then bought a house, that's number one. Number two is defending people who think you're not even a human being. And then number three is purchasing a third vacation home while your grandchildren uh, struggle to even live in their car. Which, once again, not all boomers. My grandpa's mostly he's just a big fan of Israel type of guy. Or I wouldn't say a big fan of Israel, but he's definitely. I don't know if he would kiss the wall, but he would. If he was invited, I'm sure he'd go to the wall. I think that's where my grandpa's at in terms of Israel. He ain't doing all that. You know what I mean? He's Christian. He ain't kissing the wall, but he'll be like it's sacred. You know what I mean? That's what he would do. So, but anyway, news week. So what we got to talk about. Got to talk about the news. Got a whole lot of news for you guys right here. Yeah, I wasn't able to find a lot of like funny ones. We're just gonna be talking about the same dumb bullshit that everyone is fucking talking about right now. Oh, do you want to hear about ICE right now? Hey, you. Yeah, you, the guy who can't afford groceries, who's working 60 hours a week because 40% of his money is going to um, third world immigrants and people who rape and eat babies. Do you want to hear about the retards who are wasting away their days fist fighting other retards? Is that what you want to hear about? You want to hear about that? Sounds fun, right? Sounds fun to hear about that. I'm sure that's exactly what you want to hear about right now while you and your wife argue quietly, trying to preserve what innocence your child has left. I'm sure that's what you want to hear about. You want to hear about the retards fighting other retards while you debate whether or not you can eat rotten chicken. That's what you want. That's that's what you want to hear about. You want to hear about that. You're thinking about picking up and moving to rural Nebraska because at least rent's only $1,100 a month there for a half bedroom apartment. Right. What you want to hear about at this very moment is retards who are stealing your money, fighting other retards who are stealing your money, all in the name of retards who are also stealing your money. Um, while the non-retards kill and eat babies and also steal your money. that's that's probably what you want to hear about. Which, I mean, what else are you gonna hear about? Like, that's the other thing. Everyone being like, "Oh, our government's ran by baby eating pedophiles or whatever." It's like, yeah, but we're not gonna do anything. Look at this country, dude. Look at the people who inhabit this country. 40% of them are obese. And I'm not talking about fat. A fat dude can fight in a war. An obese person cannot fight in a war. You know, despite what Antifa might think, a bunch of fat retards does not an army make. All right? But yeah, we're not doing anything. So you might as well hear about the money stealing, baby eating retards fist fighting each other in the street to defend the cat eating retards who are also stealing your money. You might as well hear about that. So, this is Minnesota immigration crackdown is ending, Ho Man says. So, this man is a hoe. And he says immigration crackdown in Minnesota is ending. Thank God. That'll fix Minnesota. That'll fix the fucking that'll fix the Leering Center. is a crackdown on is a lack of crackdowns on illegal immigration. So the immigration crackdown in Minnesota that led to mass detentions, protests, and 2 deaths is coming to an end, border czar Tom Homan said Thursday. As a result of our efforts here in Minnesota is now less of a sanctuary state for criminals, Homan said at a news conference. I have proposed and President Trump has concurred that this surge operation conclude, he continued. So what he's saying there is, yeah, we knew we were going to piss these people off and fuck with them, and we did it to distract you, and we got away with it. We sent all those retarded ICE agents there to go and fist fight these other retards. It's exactly what we knew was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen exactly like that. Then we released a bunch of files talking about how we all kill, eat, rape, murder babies, uh, and just children in general, or any person. Uh, I think it's bad no matter what. Controversial opinion. I think killing and eating a human being is bad no matter what. But we admitted to doing that. Clear as day, we basically got in your face and said, yeah, we did it. So what? And you were distracted by the retards fighting other retards. And so we got away with it. That's essentially what this guy, what was his name? Tom Homan? That's what Tom Homan is telling you with that statement. It worked. Hey, dummy, it worked. We only needed we only needed it to work just long enough to keep you fucking Fox News, CNN watching retards distracted long enough so that we could admit to being baby killing pedophiles and you would ignore it all. And then we sprinkled, Bad Bunny into the Super Bowl just on top, just as a little fucking cherry on that sundae. Suck my dick. That's what Tom Homan is telling you right now. So, anyway, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement launched Operation Metro Surge on December 1st. Federal authorities say the sweeps focused on the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area have led to the arrest of more than 4,000 people, while the Trump administration has called those arrested dangerous criminal illegal aliens. Many people with no criminal records, including children and U.S. citizens, have also been detained. I hate I I really don't like taking the side of the money stealing pedophiles, but yeah, it's what's going to happen. When you say I need to find 30 million people, arrest them and then get them out of the country, there's going to be collateral damage there. Um so yeah, some people got detained, some people were just executed. Uh there's no defense for that. That guy was executed because uh, the government probably purposely sent incompetent morons to go and do that job so that they would fuck up like that, and then it could distract us from the fact that they're killing and eating babies. But there was also a guy executed. I would say that's more important than a child who was abandoned by his illegal immigrant father briefly being put in the back of a car. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a raving lunatic. But I would say the guy who was executed summarily and without trial in broad daylight is maybe more of a big deal than the fact that some fat lesbian was arrested because she uh, tried to fist fight a guy who actually, ironically, also looks like a fat lesbian. Right? So it's a bit bigger of a deal than that. So anyway, Democratic Governor Tim Walz, I thought that motherfucker stepped down anyway. Said that he expected Operation Metro Surge to end in days, not weeks and months, based on his conversation with senior Trump administration officials. He told reporters he spoke this week in both Homan and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. So nearly 2/3 of Americans say whatever. Sorry. So Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey also said he had a positive meeting with Homan on Monday and discussed the potential for a further drawdown of federal officers. Yeah, that's them. I'm not reading any more of that article. That's them having their little buddy time of being like, we did it. We fucking did it, dude. We all admitted that we ate kids. We all admitted that we were pedophiles on the island. We fucking did it. That's what Jacob Fry and Tim Walz and Trump were all doing together. That was them being like, sorry, just found the next article I'm gonna read. Um, that's basically what that article was telling me, is that we got away with it, and you morons fell for it. Get dicked on, dummy. Fuck. Jesus Christ. Yeah, it turns out putting 90,000 ads on a website makes it run slightly slower. Who would have guessed? USA Today. So this is our second article from, and this one is from USA Today, and this is RFK Jr. admits to snorting cocaine off of toilet seats. God, we gotta love that. We gotta love this. Oh, and I guess the other thing about the Epstein files is obviously it quickly became politicized of right versus left. And one of the big things that everyone was talking about, and this is how I know these people don't actually give a shit. One of the big things that people were talking about was being like Hunter Biden wasn't in the files. He was just doing cocaine and fucking full grown hookers. Dude, there's a video of him getting a foot job from his 12-year-old niece. Just because someone wasn't hanging out with all the cool pedophiles doesn't mean they weren't a pedophile, dude. Like your gym teacher who grabbed your dick in 8th grade or whatever, uh, he's still a pedophile. Just because he wasn't in the files doesn't mean he wasn't a pedophile. I don't know what else to say. But anyway, this is just RFK being a fucking red-blooded American patriot. Love to see this out of him. So anyway, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. reflected on his decades in recovery from alcohol and substance abuse during a podcast appearance, admitting he used to snort cocaine off toilet seats. Kennedy made the admission and spoke about his recovery on Theo Von, more like Fedo Von, am I right? Or see, I was trying to find a way to call Theo Von a Fed, but anyway, on Theo Von's podcast this past weekend that aired February 12th, Kennedy said he and the comedian podcaster met during recovery meetings before the COVID-19 outbreak and later formed a pirate group that continued meeting during the pandemic. So I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats, Kennedy disclosed. Like if I don't treat it, which means for me going to meetings every day, it's just bad for my life. Uh, Whatever. And Theo Von isn't a Fed. He's just an opportunist, you know. I don't think he's working with the CIA or anything like that. I just think he's getting money by any means possible, and I can't blame the guy. You know, you got to do what you got to do. Whatever. I was gonna read another article, but I was like, fuck it, dude. I didn't even know I had 53 minutes in me today. I've been starving today. I've been full on, like, struggling today. So I don't even know I had 53 minutes in me. It's not like anyone's going to listen to the full thing anyway. So who gives a fuck? Anyway, if you are still listening at this point, I hope you have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. Um, you know, eat someone if you have the opportunity, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.